Alright, welcome back. Yeah, the phone is all charged up, the camera's all charged up, flash is working. The next step that I was supposed to be doing was putting these push rods together and snapping in these little ball cups into the rod ends. I did that off camera. Once again, the page did not give any kind of description as to hardware or what bag to retrieve it from. All it says is there's a ×2, which means you're doing that step twice. Alright, so we flipped the page, and flipping the page was installing these push rods onto the A-arms and up into the cantilever brackets here. And I went ahead and did that because it was just such an exciting thing to do. One thing I want to mention is to be careful not to over tighten this screw down here. There is no nut on the back edge. They don't ask you to put a nut on the back edge. I don't think the screw is long enough to even fit one on the back edge. And I could see it being very possible to strip out these thin little holes here, just because that's all you have biting on the screw. It's just that little piece here and a little piece over here. Installed these on. I actually had these on upside down. I had to take them off and flip them around. I had this part facing down and it should have been facing up, and when you were working the cantilevers back and forth, these 2 points were binding at the top, like they were hitting each other. So you know, one could go up all the way and the other one could only go up so far before it started catching. So my bad, I had to take those off and just literally flip them upside down and put them back down. And then just put these screws in, and these screws go in a little bit tighter, they hold a little bit better. But once again, this top part right up here isn't threaded. The screw just drops down in, which makes it easier for feeding through. So yeah, don't over tighten any of this stuff. It just needs to be, you know, snug. You want to ensure free movement, even though there is movement inside the ball cup there. Alright, so we did all that, and then we're moving on to the next page, which is a front sway bar mount. And I dug up the hardware on this off camera once again. Had to go into the main bag C over here and then root around for bag C42. All it tells you on the page is that you just need 2 of these M3 10mm and 2 of these M3 10mm set screws. Once again, it's telling you your spring rate for your sway bar with the coloration to go along with it for the color coding. But it doesn't tell you about what hardware bag to get or anything like that. Like I said before, I think they should have like listed that you need the actual sway bar and all this other stuff and what hardware bag to fetch it from. But it was in C42, so we'll dig out all this exciting stuff and get to putting these little ball joint cups or ball joints here on the end of the sway bar. One moment. Alright, well, I started laying all this out. Got our sway bar, got our little links, got our little ball sockets there, our little mounting tabs, all our screws and whatnot, and set screws sitting on top. There's a couple of small set screws. And that is one thing that I noticed, that it had these 2 small set screws going through the center of these little tabs that hold down the sway bar. And that got me thinking. I was like, they have set screws on the front. Do they have set screws on the back? Did I miss something? So I turned the page back, and yes, they do. I'm sorry about this poor focusing here on the camera. Autofocus is on. So yeah, there's 2 little set screws that are supposed to go down in the middle of these mounts. And I do have them sitting over here in this tray. So I'm gonna go ahead real quick off camera and put those into the little mounts here. My bad, people make mistakes. One moment. Alright, so I put those little Allen set screws in place. Didn't really know how much to tighten them down, so I did it one at a time and tightened it down until it stopped the sway bar from moving up and down, and then just loosened it to the point where I had free play. So we're just dropping freely, no snags, nothing dragging. And then repeated the process on the other side. Put the set screw in until it stopped moving on the sway bar, and then just loosen it up until it had free movement on it. Alright, so now we're going to move over to the front section. So that one more empty bag. That was quite a few pages back. Page is that? Page 50, and all that nonsense was on, well, I got to guess here, 38, 39. Alright, pardon the interruption. Sorry about that. Alright, so I guess we'll start putting this stuff together. Start by putting a little Loctite on the set screws for these guys here, and get them attached to the sway bar here. Once again, no real instruction on how far to put these on, so I'm just going to run it up to the point like I did on the last time, for the point where the sway bar is just, you know, even with the top of the cup there, so it's not going to be gouging the plastic out of the sockets. So I think we'll start off with these little mounts. Well, no, I'll do that I guess first, and I'll do this second. Putting these little tabs on. Alright, a little scattered. We'll get it taken care of here. Yeah, once again, no list of hardware other than the screws that you need and the set screws. No mention of the little ball joints. No mention of these, other than showing it on the picture. No mention of any of this stuff, other than showing it on the picture. No reference as to what parts bag to grab it from. Alright, we'll get those installed. Well, alright, I have the set screws in, a little dab of Loctite on them. Rub them down, put my finger on top to make sure that wasn't sticking out too far. It actually might be sticking out too far. I might bring that back a little bit. And this one's okay. And I also installed the little set screws into these hold down tabs. So the next step is just going to be putting these hold down tabs on and the sway bar on. So I'll start by screwing in the tabs, probably the 2 screws on the upper tabs, and then like I did on the back ones, I'll just flip those up on either side, and then put the sway bar in, and then flip them down and run the screws back in. So we'll do that real quick. I'll put these screws in and get those all set up for the sway bar. Alright, we got the sway bar installed, and it goes in between the shafts here and the camber link. And then on the back there's going to be a couple of ball joints being screwed in here with the links going up to the sway bar. And just like on the front, hopefully I can do this on camera, or just like on the back, I'm going to spin this down like this, and then go ahead and put in the last 2 remaining screws and snug that down. Alright, so I tightened those down, those 2 bottom screws, and you just want those snug. And then I went ahead and snugged down these little set screws to the point where this is still has free play on it, and it's still able to walk back and forth side to side relatively easy from left to right. But it's not like loose. If I just put another little pinch of a turn on there, that would stop it from walking back and forth from side to side, and another little pinch after that, and it wouldn't be able to drop down on its own. So just want to make sure it had some free play on there. When it's all said and done, like I said, I'm probably going to end up taking these off. Sway bars don't really do you too good when you're out rock crawling or trying to make the most of your suspension articulation for whatever kind of terrain that you're running on. Alright, so the next step is going to be putting on these little guys right here, which once again there's no reference to any of those parts. We're going to put those in on the back of the A-arms right down here. So that is our next step, and that's what I'm going to throw on right now.